Hey everyone, and welcome back for more D&D Horror Story Cringe. In today's episode, we have a tale about a 40-year-old player who is a loot goblin, and a story about a DM that sees that a player is going to be a problem. But first, you know him and you love him. It's Lucky, the like and comment kitty. Thanks, Lucky. Now let's get into these stories. New player demands the party pay for his supplies as a percentage share of all the loot. By Reddit user, The Bloviator. This happened last night, and I just need to get this off my chest. A bit of background is needed first. The important thing to understand here is this group has been playing almost weekly for about a year. We meet Thursdays at a local game store. We have very good group chemistry and have a loot sharing system in place, i.e., the archer gets the magic arrows, the monk gets the dragonhide belt that only monks can attune to, etc. Effectively, whomever can best use the item for the benefit of the party gets the item, and we split gold evenly. Simple, efficient, and agreeable. Then cue this dude. Since it's a public game, we allow new players from time to time. So when a 40-something-year-old guy asked to join, we didn't really have a reason to say no. He had never played 5e, nor didn't have dice or a character sheet, had no minis or characters made. So, as a player, for the first 30 minutes of last week's session, we spent helping him build a character. That's no big deal, honestly. He's new to 5e, and we love to help. It was this week's game, that is, where the horror begins. First, after being told the table is full the previous week, he brings his 13-ish-year-old son to the game store and asks if he can play. Our DM is far too nice to say no, meaning she is now in the position of agreeing to DM for a 7th player, or saying no and making a kid sit in the store for 3 hours. Obviously, she said yes. Though, did the kid have a character ready to go? No, of course he didn't. Secondly, upon killing mimics and a coven of hags, our party found a lot of loot, and I mean a lot. We all got a hearty supply of gold and platinum each, worth around 2,000 gold, along with a bunch of magic items. Here is where things got weird at the table. My character finds a magical quiver, hands it to the only PC in the group with any kind of bow or crossbow, the arcane archer. No one else in the party uses bows or crossbows. New PC. You're just giving that to her? Me. Yes, she's the only one that would be able to use it to its potential. New PC. Well, I earned that too. I want my percentage of it. Me. What do you mean? New PC. We need to find out how much it's worth, and she needs to pay me for my percentage of it. The whole group and the DM, minus the new PC's son, spends the next 10 minutes explaining how loot is shared, that we divvy up magic items to those who can use them the most, that it is common for the group to spend large amounts of money for others in the group when they are low on funds, etc. We also took the time to explain that his wizard character is getting 2 new spells, as we found scrolls, and that he can pick from the items left over. We literally found like 10 magic items. The new PC just scoffed the entire time, as if the group's way of divvying loot was unbelievably incorrect, and that's not even the end of it. I will also say that he was upset that my character got the winged boots. All you need to know there is our Discord has a magic item wish list section, and I asked for them a while back. My DM, being the merciful and generous god she is, put them in the game, so they were for me. And he didn't like that, even after it was explained. Later, we needed to identify all of these items, but the new PC didn't take the identify spell. To shorten this section up, he, the wizard PC, demanded that the party all chip in money so he can buy a 50 gold piece identify scroll. 50 gold pieces, out of the thousands he just earned. When we asked why he couldn't cover it, it effectively came down to, if I'm going to take up space in my spellbook and use it for the party, then the party should pay for the scroll. This was another 5-minute discussion that ended with him not buying the scroll. The DM allowed me to purchase Identify services, out of my pocket of course, always here to help the party, and I got everything identified. The new PC was also mad at that, like he was mad he lost a bargaining chip or something. Finally, the new PC needs to identify something in the store, so he buys the scroll and uses it, but doesn't even put it in his book. This one may have been an experience with the rules on wizards, but still. Luckily, the DM doesn't have to DM for anyone, and they will not be rejoining us next session. And the store has our back as well. There was a bit more that I didn't include here, but you get the gist. TLDR, new player joins in on a long-running campaign, and on his second session complains and argues with the group with how loot is given out. He demands his percentage share of all magic items, and refuses to buy anything unless the party chips in equally, although he just earned thousands of gold. He continues to complain even after the group explains the system to him. Edit. New PC equals 40-year-old dad. Small update. Just as a small update if you're interested. The DM got a message from the store asking her to give new PC one more chance. The DM added the new PC and one of the store's managers to a Discord group chat in order to 1. Respectfully deny his child a continuing spot at the table, as she did not want to DM for a child, and 2. Give new PC a list of expectations at the table. Even after sending the messages, he did not respond to them for over a week and a half. We did not play last week due to a COVID scare. The store did just give the DM permission to oust him for good due to the lack of communication. We also learned that he has not paid for the sessions he and his son played, as the store charges $3 to play per week and splits the profits to the DMs as a thank you. Some things just tend to fix themselves, I guess. The age-old tale of a player being a stingy loot goblin. Now, I do understand that this was that dude's first time playing 5e, but some concepts of tabletop RPGs are overarching. You're a part of a team that needs to work together, for the most part, towards a common goal. Throwing a hissy fit over the archer getting a magic item attuned to that player's style, and then being stingy with buying a 50 gold piece spell scroll that will ultimately help everyone, especially after being rewarded that much gold, is kinda childish. Then to bring his teenage son to a game without telling the DM and putting her into a bad position is also very inconsiderate. I do not blame that DM for not wanting to have that full-grown ass adult at her table, and apparently he didn't mind since he made no attempt to communicate after being given a second chance. Here's hoping that OP's game is still going strong. And before we get into the next story, if you aren't already, I hope I can earn your subscription today, as it does really help the channel grow, and Nipsey really likes it.
Yes, I really like subscribers. And this lucky.
See? Anyway, let's get into the story. Upset player tries to ruin the game for everyone else. By Reddit user Surlio. Before the pandemic, I ran a teaching table at a local game store that always had a fantastic group of players. There were 3 tables set up, and we'd pass the players along based on experience. Brand new players were at table 1, and this table typically walked through character generation, basics, and so on. Table 2 was moderate players often dealing with broader concepts and the like. Then you had my table, number 3, which was for those wanting to learn to run the game. This was done with a rotation, with me helming every other adventure, giving advice, explaining why I did things, then rotating to the next player in line, and me sitting next to them as they run their game. We had a solid system going for nearly 2 years. On average, there were roughly 20 players across all tables on these nights. When we were sending off all players, there was typically a major epic spanning all 3 tables. This particular night, I remember, because it was one of the only times in my 20+ years of running games I have ever snapped at a player at the table. My main rule at my tables is always, never purposefully do something that ruins someone else's fun. The party was made up of one of the most interesting groups, a half-orc warlock barbarian. He didn't know he had the pact, so every new warlock power freaked him out. A drow cleric of life, a dwarf cleric of the forge, a half-orc Kensai monk, an elf horizon walker ranger, a goblin wizard, and a green dragonborn swashbuckler rogue. The rogue always had issues. His character was very poorly statted, which led to a ton of botched rolls and hits from enemies. He swore that he was this long-experienced role player that was just new to 5th edition. His constant poor performance often led him to having at-table frustrations. That part was understandable. However, he was asked on several occasions if he would like to revamp his character, but he always declined. In this adventure, the group were in a dungeon that kept descending down on steeper and steeper inclines, until the last one, which required a hard dex check or other means. The current slope is steep. It has steps, but they are uneven. There is also water flowing down the steps, and traps in the handholds. The dwarf had decided to shield ride down, but botched terribly and found himself 200 feet below the party, low on health from the fall, and in an opening with carrion crawlers. The party, except the rogue, started tying their ropes together to make it easier to descend so they could try to save their friend. The rogue opted out of this plan and figured he could go down on his own faster, but he failed the dex roll. He had been failing rolls all night, failing to hit in combat, failing in leech-filled water, failing to notice things. I could see him getting mad, so I let him have a strength save to catch himself, which he passed. At this point, the rest of the group was starting to descend the ropes. Clever idea. The rogue says, "I'll wait for them to pass me." This piques my curiosity, but I saw no real harm in it. At this point, the party is in full-bore chatter mode. They are trying to figure out what to do when they get down to the bottom. Who is going after the crawlers? Who is healing the dwarf, etc. In the middle of the commotion, I hear, "I cut the rope." I look to the rogue player and say, "Excuse me?" They say again, "I cut the rope." No one else in the group heard him or was actively paying attention to what he said. Now, I rarely ever do what happened next. I simply said, "No." I wasn't loud, and I wasn't harsh. I was very simple and to the point. I don't have issues with in-game and party roleplay conflicts to a point. Someone lightly hitting another character, or slinging a small spell at someone, based on context, can add a party story layer of fun, sometimes. But this action was actively breaking my one rule. Now, I hear from the rogue, "What? Taking away player agency, are you?" And at this point, he raised his voice, and suddenly the table was listening. "No," I responded back, louder this time. I knew my face had to be serious, because everyone was suddenly transfixed on me. "Why not?" the rogue asks. I stood up from my seat, put my hands on the table, and looked right at them, and said, "Why? Because one of two things is going to happen as a result of this action. Either they fall to their deaths and have to make new characters, which will ruin the night for everyone but you. Or they survive the fall and now are mad at your character for having done this and will likely murder your character for the act. Why is because this violates my one rule, a rule I reiterate every time a new player joins this table." The table fell silent, and he sat down, grumbling, "It was just a joke," before he proceeded to pout and check out of the rest of the encounter. After the session, I asked to talk to him off to the side, away from everyone, but he declined. I approached each player privately over the week to get their take on the events, and they all agreed to just talk with him before taking further actions. He missed the next several sessions and had several excuses, but I know he was bad-mouthing me to the other players because they brought it to my attention. Sadly, there is no further resolution to this, as COVID hit and the beginner tables were closed as a result. Many of that group still meet on the regular, and I pop into their chats from time to time to see how they are doing. But the rogue has all but vanished from the local RPG community. TLDR, player gets mad at his luck and opts to take it out on the rest of the party, forcing me to step in with a hard no. I just gotta say that I have mad respect for OP in this story. Taking the time to help people learn the game all the way up to DMing is a selfless act that helps more people discover and get into this great hobby. And also good on OP for seeing a problem player emerging and shutting that shit down before you can ruin the game for everyone. A lot of time in these stories, you will have a that guy or Murderhobo that tries to pull something like this and ruin the game for everyone else. And the DMs in those stories just let it happen. So big ups to this OP for nipping that problem in the bud. And that will do it for today. If you have a story that you'd like to be shared on the channel, be sure to post it to the D&D Doge subreddit, or post a link in the comments. Also be sure to follow me on Twitter for more of the like and comment kitties. As always, I appreciate all of you, and may all of your rolls be natural 20s. Until next time.